I'm going to go ahead and introduce our candidates right now. Daniel Lee, Alex Fish, and Albert Vera. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, have a seat there and get comfy. Okay. What? Yeah?
Before we begin, I just want to say something that may be obvious to some of you and not to others. Some of you may be wondering why there's only 3 candidates. Because the Culver City Democratic Club can only endorse Democratic candidates for public office. Under our bylaws and under our charter, Los Angeles County Democratic.
Let's see. Daryl, do you want to be the timekeeper or no? Okay, we need a timekeeper because we're all going to have 1 minute answers from everybody. Can I get somebody to volunteer to do that? Okay, thank you. Okay, looks like everybody's ready. What we'll do is to start off with, we'll just have everybody say hello to everybody and give like a little, like a couple minutes as to, why you're running and stuff like that. And then we'll go into the questions. How's that? Okay. We get 2 minutes for them to all just, say hello and, why they're running and whatever. Let's see. Daniel, go ahead. We'll start with you.
Sure. I can just jump right in and I'll try to be succinct. My name is Daniel Lee. I'm running for City Council in Culver City. This is my second time. The first time in 2016, I came up short. I lost by 254 votes. But my motivation for running is much the same. I come from a family with a tradition of service. My grandmother was in the Montgomery bus boycott. I was very active myself, both in Occupy and Black Lives Matter. I was arrested for both, which some people tried to use against me last time in the campaign. But recently, in 2016, I was chosen as the Democrat of the Year for the 51st Assembly District. In 2017, our state senator, Holly Mitchell, appointed me as a delegate to the Democratic Party, and I've been serving in that position since then. I lived in Culver City for 15 years. I've volunteered at El Rincon Elementary School for the last 14 years. I've been on the MLK Celebration Committee for the last 7 years. I'm a veteran of the Air Force and Air National Guard. I was in the Screen Actors Guild for over 10 years. I'm a dedicated public servant in terms of nonprofits as well. I'm on the board of directors for Move to Amend, which is a group that's working to amend the Constitution around Citizens United. I'm also on the board of directors for the Backbone Campaign, another national nonprofit which is working to help Democrats have a backbone and stand for what they actually believe in. I think I would be a great addition to the Culver City Council for reasons that go far beyond diversity, even though I think representation is important. I also think the representation of thought and representation of occupation and POV is also important so that everyone in our city feels like they are truly represented by our city. I will say more later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Alex.
Good evening. Hello, Democrats. My name's Hardin Alexander Alex Fish. You're going to learn pretty soon when the ballots come out. But I've been Alex Fish my whole life. But I've been in Culver City for 13 years as a homeowner. I've got 2 kids in Culver City schools, and if you hear some little murmurs of children, I apologize. In our family, politics is a full family affair. So. I'm the chair of the Culver City Committee on Homelessness presently. That committee has been one of the more active committees in the city and maybe unsung. Our own Mayor Jim Clark last year in the Santa Monica Argonaut acknowledged that because we had pushed the city, Culver City was taking a leadership role in the fight against homelessness in LA County. As chair, before I was chair, we identified LA County's 47 strategies to combat and prevent homelessness and began working to take words on a piece of paper and make them actual policy right here in Culver City. And last year we secured funding for pilot programs in rapid rehousing to get families back into homes who have just been pushed out. That's a program that's over 90% successful in other contexts. We launched a pilot program to keep families in homes if they'd fallen behind because of short-term shocks, and we reinstituted a senior grant program for life safety repairs in homes. And I can be pretty long-winded about housing and homelessness, so I need to move on. But I was also one of the key people involved in the fight against Measure CA, which would have moved hiring and firing authority from the city council to the city manager. This club endorsed our no vote. We prevailed by 65% voting against. Our thought was that it's key to keep the power over our most trusted public servants close to the people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Albert, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Albert Vera. I was born and raised in Culver City, been here my entire life. My family has a long history of service to the city as well as myself. Currently, I'm on the Civil Service Commission. I'm on the Board of Directors for the Upward Bound House, Board of Directors for YMCA, as well as the Exchange Club. I'm running because I love my city. I'm running because the city has given me an opportunity to start over again. I ran into some difficult times in my life. I became addicted to drugs, and I did some jail time behind that. As a result of that, I came out invigorated and a new lease on life. I want to give back to the community that has given me everything, has given me a second chance. You know, my family, in growing up in the store, Sorrento Italian Market, by the way, watching my parents give to the community, just give and see the joy that it brought to their faces as well as to people receiving. I've adopted that policy in my life, and there is no better joy for me than giving back to the community or giving the community that I love and want the best for. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's see. We'll start with the first question, and we'll go to each person. We'll have a minute to speak. First question is, to all candidates, what would you do to provide affordable housing in Culver City? Daniel, you want to go first, or how do you want to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So I think one of the largest linchpins for affordable housing in Los Angeles County is inclusionary zoning. In the 2016 election cycle, I had the privilege to work for the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor when they were pushing Measure JJJ, which is an inclusionary zoning policy proposal which would basically require new developments of a certain size and density to have a certain amount of affordable housing, and if the developers did not want to provide that affordable housing, they could instead pay a large fee, which would be much larger than the amount of actually building the affordable housing, and that fee could go into a fund for the city, so the city could actually work on affordable housing themselves. I think inclusionary zoning is the start. We also need to expand the rental assistance program and give the landlord-tenant mediation board some actual teeth.
Okay, time's up.
Try to combine approaches here. I've thought a lot about housing in my role as chair of committee on homelessness. Inclusionary zoning is the idea that when a developer builds something over, say, 10 units, they have to include a certain amount of below market housing, subsidized housing. I fully support inclusionary zoning. It should be a no-brainer at this point with the housing crisis the way it is. Especially, I had a conversation with Tom Main, he's a Pritzker Prize winning architect right here in Los Angeles about this, and he was talking about transit, and he was saying there's nothing that we can do, and I said, well, what if we build affordable housing next to the expo line? He said, well, you could do that. So I think it is a no-brainer. We need affordable housing near the expo station. Those are transit riders for high high-income families that live near transit drive twice as many miles as lower-income families that live near transit. So we have to do that. We also need to spend the redevelopment money that's finally coming back to Culver City, and we need to acquire affordable units that are and protect existing below-market units.
Yeah, inclusionary zoning is definitely a must. I believe that with the general plan coming up, we can really remap the city and determine what areas we really want density in terms of, we simply don't have the land stock. We really need to create land. I'd love to see us maybe subdivide properties where you take a standard side lot, which is worth $1 million. You can cut it into four, make micro housing, so a lot automatically becomes $250,000, which is a little more reasonable. And at least that way, a single family can afford to live in the city.
Let's see, okay.
Oh, I thought you said, I'm so sorry. Well, I'm done. Oh, okay.
Oh, you want to speak some more? You can
No,
go
I'm
ahead.
good.
System's
Okay.
getting better.
Yeah.
Let her take a picture real quick. It's okay, he's not going to go after anybody. It's a
Ditto.
tiny little dog like
Ditto, ditto.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, next one is, given the horrific school shooting today in Florida, what is your position on gun control? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Given the horrific school shooting in Florida today, what is your position on gun control? And there's one more little question with that. Would you be willing to pass a resolution condemning gun violence and supporting common sense gun laws? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Vera, do you want to take this one first? Sure. Oh, hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me know. Oh, uh-oh.
Can use my phone.
You need a new phone? Got it? Okay, go ahead.
I think gun control, it's an issue that we can speak on all day long. There's so many different aspects of gun control. It's a terrible tragedy what's happening in our schools, what's happening throughout the country. I think we really need to look at multi-levels of it in terms of mental health of people. You know, the guns are out there. Unfortunately, they fall into the hands of the wrong people. So I think enforcing the laws that we have on the books, being as tight as possible with the laws, as well as looking into the mental health of people. And when there's something that's there, we identify it and really do something about it. Thank you.
Very good. Alex?
I think I read today that in the rest of the world there have been 10 school shootings in the last 20 years. We've had, I think, 18 in 2018. The growing consensus among people who study this is that gun violence is it's a public health issue. We should treat gun violence like we treat diseases, in the same way. And the only way to reduce gun violence is to reduce the amount of guns in circulation. That's a big challenge, and the first step of that is to get money out of politics. The NRA is a powerful force in this country, and until we're able to have legislators who truly represent the people, instead of organized interest groups, we're going to have a very, very difficult time getting the Second Amendment properly interpreted and properly realized in our country. But I would support any statement about gun violence and common sense gun regulation.
Okay, so this is a little cumbersome. I'm gonna need like 5 or 6 seconds just for like the mic thing. But I would say I actually think the problem of gun violence is a lot simpler than is often characterized by our political leaders. I think it's a problem of political will. I think we've seen examples specifically in Australia where they had a rash of gun violence and then they took specific policy decisions and they haven't had a mass shooting since. I think things like mandatory background reports, closing gun show loopholes, and of course, resisting. I forget what they call these new laws, but these laws that make it so if you have a concealed carry permit in one state, you can transfer to another state and still carry that gun. I think all of those types of laws are what we need to say emphatically no to, and emphatically yes to common sense things like background checks, like, you know, not giving guns to people who have been convicted of domestic abuse.
Thank you. Okay, next one. This is a big one that we've had issues with for a long time. Will you act to protect Culver City from oil drilling and fracking by voting to require a minimum 1/2 to 1 mile setback, a 2.5 billion disaster bond, and a baseline survey of the health risks and property damage? Alex, you want to go first?
Yeah. I'm a big believer that we need short-term regulation that's very, very tight on the oil field and a long-term plan to eliminate neighborhood oil drilling entirely. The first step is indeed to have a half-mile minimum buffer zone, and shame Los Angeles County into the same thing. We need no net new wells for any new well that's drilled. One has to be safely retired permanently, and if it's possible to simply say no new drilling, then I fully support that. Obviously, it's an easy vote to say no fracking, no enhanced well stimulation, and I'm aware of the decision in Monterey Superior Court that limited local control. I would fully support the city taking that on. It's just a Superior Court decision. Long term, we do need a bond that takes account of the fact that the oil field is going to retire someday, and we don't want to be left with untold liabilities for taking out 100-year-old pipes and cleaning up old inland spills. Thank you.
You want to go next? Sure. I know? Okay. Trying to move it around a little.
So just to be succinct, definitely support a 2,500-foot setback from oil and gas operations to homes and businesses. Definitely support a $2.5 billion bond. I think we should do some research to make sure whether or not that amount is enough to protect both the businesses and the homes in Culver City, because in the places where the oil fields are closest to, and Blair Hills, near Raintree, a lot of the apartments and homes there appraised for $1 million easily. So we could get to $1 billion very quickly. We could get to $2.5 billion very quickly. So we should make sure that we think that that is enough. On the other side, our regulations in general should be designed to phase out the use of all fossil fuels on the Inglewood oil field. There is a large potential for Culver City to be a catalyst for all of Los Angeles County to ban fracking and to ban enhanced oil and drilling techniques, and that's what we should focus on.
Okay, yeah, I am totally against fracking. I think the city really needs to do everything we can to provide the safety for our community. It's all about safety, but I also believe that we really need to work with LA County and require them to provide the same level of protection and safety and demand the tightest of rules and regulations possible. You know, we have a small portion of the field in Culver City. If something, God forbid, happens outside of our district, our area, we're still going to really be affected by it. So we really need to work hard with LA County, that we implore them, we mandate that they put the exact same rules, regulations as Culver City has. Thank you.
Okay, next question. What plans have you for relieving traffic congestion, particularly in light of the 3 new venues that will open soon? And Alex, we'll start with you.
All right. Thank you. Traffic and housing are intimately linked. We have a jobs housing imbalance that's driving a lot of the traffic. There's a sentiment, and I understand it, that we don't want to change the city, and I think we have to have some change to keep the things that we love about the city. So we need to we need to move in a direction that promotes our common good and the things that we really care about. Because if we try to stop all development in Culver City, there will be a wall around us of Los Angeles, and the traffic of Los Angeles will continue to pour through Culver City. So if we don't take steps to create the streets that we want, that keep our residents safe, that allow our children to get to school, then we won't have the little town that we love. It'll simply be a big cut through for Los Angeles. So what we need to improve transit. We need to make sure that there are short headways between buses. We need to explore more flexible microtransit. We need to make safe streets and create more opportunities for people to walk to their destinations.
Let's see. Daniel, you want to go?
So in regards to traffic, I think a lot of our traffic policy in the city for the last 10 to 20 years has been focused on getting cars through Culver City more efficiently, rather than focused on getting people out of their cars and getting them to experience Culver City. I think our current council member, Megan Solly Wells, has done a lot of fantastic work in terms of changing that narrative, in terms of like trying to get people to think about Culver City as a place that is a destination, that is not a through street. And I think a lot of the great development that we've had in the last 10 or 20 years has made Culver City a destination. So in terms of traffic, we need to focus on, one, making the people that actually live here more likely to take their car, their bike, more likely to take their bike rather than their car or walk, but then also to get the people who would use Culver City as a through street to see it as an unsavory option and instead see it as a place where they want to get some dinner.
I believe traffic is a regional issue. We really can't solve the problem by ourselves. In 2015, I believe there was a traffic study done saying over 3 million cars pass through Culver City, just pass through Culver City. That's an amazing amount of number. I'm sure by now it's even larger than that. I'd love to see a more robust transit system. We have a dedicated bus line, either that or a flex lane. We can track the buses more readily on our cell phones. I think the more reliable a system, the more people are going to start using it. Microtransit is another great option. But in terms of mixed usage, we've got to provide the developers incentives to make mixed use buildings, so that walkability, you can live and work in the same area. So I think it's a multi-pronged approach that we need to face, but like I said, it's a regional problem. We have to work with our surrounding cities. Thank you.
Okay, this is a question for Daniel Lee and Alex Fish. Says here, how many times have you voted in a Culver City election since you moved to Culver City? Okay, Daniel can go first if you want.
I'm not sure. I'm just gonna be honest. In the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I believe I've voted in every election. But I'm sorry, you're gonna have to check with the Los Angeles registrar to get the exact dates. The long and the short of it is, I made myself a permanent vote-by-mail voter because of my job commitments about 4 or 5 years ago, so that I would be able to vote if I was out of town for work reasons. So when I have been out of town for work, I've voted by mail. When I've been in town, I've voted in person.
I think, all candidates should answer all questions, so I hope that we don't feel limited by the questioner's dictates. I'm not sure. I know that something that the person who wrote that question doesn't know, working with PDI and being sort of a data nerd, which is that PDI did not input the vote-by-mail tally from the last local election. So I don't appear in that, although I voted in that. And you can call PDI yourself. You can call the Secretary of State or the LA County Registrar. Before that, I'm not sure. I don't remember. I felt fairly disengaged from local politics. I didn't feel when I moved here, I thought that there was a good opportunity to have a voice, and I believe I voted in those elections. But I was working 80-hour weeks as a corporate attorney and ultimately a shareholder at a private firm. So I don't know that number, but it's not great, and I'm not proud of that. But I've gotten very involved in local politics, and I think I should be judged by my merits, not missing a couple elections.
Let me ask whoever did that. I was going to say, let's ask Mr. Vera also.
Yeah, since my rights got restored, I've voted in every election since. That was 5 years ago. So prior to that, I couldn't vote. So for the last 5 years, I've voted in every election that I could.
Great. Okay, let's see here. Okay, a couple people asked this question. Do you have a plan to fight airplane noise, and how? Okay. Want to go first?
I think fighting airplane noise is a plan that we'd all really love to come up with. I think we really need to be diligent with the lawsuit and continue fighting against the FAA. It seems like a losing battle, but you know the websites that are out there. I think the louder we are, the more noise we make, they got to listen. They got to listen sooner or later. So I think we just need to be diligent. We need to keep on fighting and continue with the lawsuit.
I think the city's done a good job in retaining counsel and suing the FAA, and that lawsuit should be maintained until we can get either a good settlement or until we win or lose on the merits. I also think that the city was correct in retaining a lobbyist to try and work in DC to get a fair compromise between the positive goals of the Next Gen program, which are greenhouse gas reduction and fuel consumption reduction, and what is horrible, waking up at 4:30 occasionally to a Korean air flight. I also think that the roundtable, we might want to talk to some of the people who are very active in the roundtable and look at providing them with space to meet and to working with other jurisdictions that are participating in the roundtable and having them open up space for them to meet, because I think they've had some problems in meeting. And I think that we should just carry on and basically make some space available.
I think the city has taken basically the right steps in regards to this issue thus far. I think all of us were approached by a number of people who had actually applied to be the Culver City representative for the roundtable last night at last night's forum, but we were informed that there was a petition from LAWA to switch that representation from community to exclusively city council members. And to some degree, I agree with that decision in terms of like having city council people be more informed about what's going on and more informed in the decision-making process. But I think Culver City for Quiet Skies in particular has done most of the work of making this issue apparent not only to council members but also to the larger Culver City residency at large. And I think if there's a way possible for us to have one council member representative and one local representative that is just an at-large resident of Culver City, I would be fully in support of that.
Okay. Who wants to go next? I'm sorry.
That's it for
Oh, go ahead. Next.
No, we're all good.
Oh, you're all done. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is here. Will you accept campaign contributions from large corporations such as developers, oil companies, etc.? And Albert, we'll go first.
No, absolutely not. I pride myself in all the donations that I've received have been from the community, from my customers, from yeah, that's it. And I will never accept dollars from any major corporation or oil fields. Thank you.
Great.
Same, and specifically, I need to send a $500. Maureen, we need to talk. I need to send a $500 contribution back because we received an unsolicited contribution from a local developer. I have nothing against developers, but you need to know that the people representing you are standing up. And when we negotiate with developers for community benefits, you need to know that those are community benefits. So no money from developers, no money from large outside corporations, no oil money. I think the only corporate donation that I've received so far is from the Culver Hotel, and I'm proud to have received that donation. I think every candidate has received it. Thank you.
If you look on our website, you'll see that I've signed the No Fossil Fuel Pledge, which pledges our campaign not to take any endorsements, contributions, in-kind contributions, money from fossil fuel distributors. If you look at my platform, you know why I made that pledge. Also, I have pledged to not take any money from developers very early on. We got a couple of donations from interesting sources with which we were not familiar, which we had to return because they were developers who, one, don't live in Culver City, and two, people who we had not had contact with in any way, shape, or form. So we were obviously dubious about the intent of their donation. So yes, we are pledged to not take money from fossil fuel companies and not take money from developers. And I think this goes both ways. If it's a developer I like, I will also not take money from that developer. It's not, it's not a biased rule. Thank you.